Hey, it's Pete. We're live. Just a sec. I'll be right back. Okay, y'all. Okay, how's everybody doing? You doing all right? I'm back. Um, I'm having tea. I know, shocking, huh? An American who drinks tea. Well, first of all, I grew up in New England and a little bit in Canada and a little bit in Ireland. And secondly, my parents are from Europe. My mom is Irish and my dad is uh, British and Irish. Irish and British, whichever you want to put first. And American. They're American and Canadian. So I have family from Australia, New Zealand, Britain, Ireland, Canada, um, and of course the United States. But so yeah, I actually grew up drinking tea, believe it or not. I didn't really drink coffee much, if at all, until like my 30s, perhaps. About my 30s. I didn't really start drinking coffee regularly too until I was in my 30s. I drank tea, and I didn't even drink caffeinated tea a lot. I drank like herbal tea most of the time. Kind of avoided caffeinated drinks because I didn't really need them because I was a very energetic younger person and indeed fairly athletic. But you know, working 9 to 5, getting out of my 20s into my 30s, working 7 a.m. to 11 at night, I decided to start consuming caffeine. And eventually made my way to coffee by way of tea and Coca Cola. So, yeah. I still enjoy tea. But I do lately, the last, oh, maybe 5 to 7 years or so, drink a lot more coffee than anything, probably. That's mostly because my wife is always making it. But yeah, did you guys know that New Englanders, people in New England, you know, drink a lot of tea compared to the rest of America? We like coffee and tea. It's about half and half, I think. So we're a good sort of balance of the new and old uh, Americas, the new United States and the old pre-United States American traditions are still a lot of them very commonplace throughout New England. You know, we haven't forgotten who we are and where we came from and that kind of thing. Um, So, I grew up listening to uh, a lot of music from especially Britain, Ireland, Canada, all over Europe, a lot of European culture in Boston, especially in the 80s and 90s. There was probably a lot more back then. But 9/11 changed everything. Everything became more America only, uh, and I mean that's good. I like American culture. It's my culture too, but I also appreciate my roots and my heritage, and there's good about that too, right? I don't think we have to, as Americans, completely reject everything about where our families may have come from or the culture that we are originally from. Um, but there are definitely certain things we should not uh, want or seek to bring to the United States if we're from a non-exclusively American background. Let's see. I'm gonna look at some of your comments here. Do you meet yourself in the future? Um, I believe I've already met myself in the past several times. I met my future self first when I was 6 years old. I met I think, 44, 45, probably 44-year-old self. Um, I remember exactly what I was wearing, and uh, then I remember uh, last year or so having an experience that involved extraterrestrial contact and traveling back to meet my 6-year-old self, and I was wearing the exact same thing. Wow, huh? And it was really interesting. So I met myself, and then I met myself again, and I believe that probably in the future I will meet uh, my probably travel back and meet myself again. I probably have or will do that, and I think I may have already in the past met my future self at other points, but maybe my future self is not letting me know that I'm being observed. Hmm. Think about that, you guys. Is this all fake? No, it is not fake, Caleb. So I know it seems insane right now, but just wait and see what happens. You'll be surprised, maybe, but maybe not by 2028. You won't be. And I think if 2024, if you're when 2024 comes around, um, I think you'll be it, what happens will be evidence for you to be able to believe even more that this is all very real. Let's see, which fight scene that you like? Peter versus Giant Chicken, Peter versus Donald Trump, or Peter versus Homer? I'm not a big fan of fight scenes at all, Jimmy. I'm pretty much nonviolent kind of person. I'm a Christian minister, so the last thing I want to be doing is fighting with people, frankly. I'm not an aggressive, hostile, violent person. I will defend myself, but that's the only time I'll ever use, force, and I don't enjoy violent entertainment at all. It's not really amusing to me, and I think it puts too much of that, if or even a small amount of it, puts people in a mindset that is just not healthy. And I'm very careful of my mental health, and yeah, so I just avoid violent entertainment completely. So I do research, like, you know, historical things like wars and other things that are of a violent nature, but it's not something that I enjoy. It's something that I just wanted to learn about for reference purposes. Do you become a celebrity? Nothing happens by chance, Caleb. If you want something, you have to work at it. There's no such thing as luck. There's no such thing as chance. You have to put yourself in the situation that if you have a goal, you have to work for it. It's nothing's going to be given to you ever. You have to put put yourself on the path to achieving that if that's what you want to become. Uh, so I don't know. That's up to you. I'm not gonna say yes or no. I don't know ultimately because the choice is yours right now whether you're gonna choose to do that or not. Yeah, it's not all fake, Jimmy. It's not at all fake. Will I ever do a gameplay with Michael Phillips? I don't know. I have to talk to Michael Phillips and see if he wants to, meet up. I'd like to meet him. He says we've already met, um, which I believe is possible, but I don't remember it. What book do you read in your free time? I read the Bible in my free time. A lot lately. I've just listened to it a lot. Actually, I kind of like, I play MP3s and stream it. I like audiobooks a lot actually now. Um, but if there aren't audiobooks, I will read because you don't have a choice. But if there's an audiobook, I'm not gonna lie, I will listen to the audiobook over actually sit and read it because um, first of all, I learn better by listening, and I don't have the best eyesight, so I try to rest my eyes by using my ears. Lately, I've been reading. Last book I read was that book about the last president, Baron Trump's marvelous adventure. You guys should look up about that. That's a very interesting book. I was looking through that. I didn't actually sit and read the whole thing, but I perused it, and yeah, it was fascinating. I'd like to know what you guys think of that for sure. What's the closest time of evidence to wait for? I don't know what you mean by that. The closest time of evidence? Like what? I think if you're looking for evidence of anything being true, it's mostly not going to just all fall in your lap at once because humanity is not really capable of handling everything all at once. I think most revelation is gradual because, otherwise there would be worldwide panic and anarchy, and, you know, that wouldn't be so. I think people who are waiting for some big thing to happen, it's just not really going to happen. I think everything's going to be kind of gradual. Change is gradual usually, and that's the thing. some people can handle it, a lot of ones, but most people I don't think can. So that's gonna happen, right? What's my position in life right now, and how does it relate to your future presidency? What do you mean my position? Like, in what sense? Aside from being in a multi-platinum rock band. Oh, okay. Well, I'm a multi-platinum rock musician. I don't know if you knew that about me, but um, my band is uh, one of the biggest selling bands of the present moment and has been very successful for the last 15 or 20 years. We started about 25, 27 years ago. Um, sure, you can come to my concert. I'm not doing any at the moment. I don't have any tours booked or anything. I'm primarily focusing on this campaign. But yeah, you can listen to my band at, let's see, youngastronautesclub.com. Let me let me send you guys a link here. Check that out. That's my band, Young Astronauts Club. We started in the early to sort of sort really kind of came out of the late 80s actually, when I was just a kid, literally a kid. I was like 13, 14, and I was playing guitar. I'd been playing guitar and writing music for a long time already, since I was a child, and I started putting together bands in high school, living in the suburbs of Boston. And I went through a lot of names, and a lot of people came and went, and eventually kind of settled on a lineup that was solid enough that we could start playing clubs and all ages shows at like churches and VFW halls and this kind of thing. And we started putting out recordings on our own, on my self-formed record label, because nobody else cared enough to actually give us a deal. Not like we were really looking for one anyway, but to be completely honest. And started putting out recordings, started, making our way around New England and up into Canada, New York, and putting out records and getting stuff to Japan and Europe and Australia. And next thing you know, the internet came along in a big way, and we started using that heavily, and got really big. We were one of the first bands on MySpace. Uh, one of the first bands to really have our own website, which is youngastronautesclub.com. Through a lot of different members and lineups, and finally met my wife, Crystal, who became my permanent collaborator in 2005 after we got married. Um, and we've had a lot of people in and out of the band since then as well. Some really talented musicians, and our most recent studio album is it's huge. It's been downloaded and streamed I don't know how many billions of times. Frankly, it's something we've lost count of. So it's a diamond, multi-platinum, multi-diamond album and band at this point. Even our lesser known recordings are uh, gold and platinum, probably because of the internet. So thank you, internet. Um, and of course, a company that I've grown as well over the years. Essentially just started as the record label for my band, but we've grown into other areas and expanded into other things like real estate and um, let's see, clothing, fashion, uh, building, 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 building things that you live in, to a bunch of other stuff. My Instagram, who inspired me? Let's see, Jimmy, who inspired me? If you're talking about music, I was definitely inspired by punk rock heavily. I was inspired by the songwriting of like 80s pop and new wave bands. I got really into like post punk in the late 80s. Um, got sort of into metal, but not really. I was never really a huge like metal listener, but I do like some metal. Um, I like electronic music. Like a lot of electronic music is kind of interesting to me. I think it's where a lot of the real artistry is lying anymore. And I've always kind of liked classical music. I like classical guitar, orchestral classical music. I like a lot of really weird avant-garde stuff. I like a lot of jazz. Um, John Coltrane, Jimi Hendrix, Kraftwerk, Public Image Limited, um, Frank Zappa, Carlos Santana, um, Velvet Underground, Swans. I like Rollins Band, Black Flag. Well, I prefer Rollins Band honestly to Black Flag, but sorry, sorry Black Flag. Um, Fugazi, I like a lot. Bad Brains, Minor Threat. Um, Mr. Bungle, Faith No More, anything with Mike Patton in it. John Zorn, Duran Duran was a big influence on me when I was a kid musically. U2, Sonic Youth, the Ramones, the Clash, the Sex Pistols. Um, I like Nirvana. I didn't really at first, but I understand it now. I got to understand it. The Jesus Lizard, who I liked before Nirvana did a record with them. Um, Codeine on Sub Pop. I like Low, also on Sub Pop. Um, Sunny Day Real Estate, The Fire Theft, Jeremy Enoch, The Cars, The Pixies, Lemonheads, Mission of Burma, Uh, what else do I like? I mean, I like a lot of. I grew up listening to a lot of hip hop, like Run DMC, Public Enemy, LL Cool J, 2 Live Crew, unfortunately, NWA, um, Ice T. So much hip hop. Um, you name it. KRS-One, Tribe Called Quest, Jane's Addiction, um, definitely Jane's Addiction, X. There's so much music that inspired me to really want to become a musician and start a band. 7 Seconds. I like 7 Seconds a lot. The Cure. Um, Morrissey. The Smiths. Uh-huh. Men at Work. Men Without Hats. David Bowie. Lou Reed. Um, Johnny Cash. So much stuff. I could talk for like an hour and a half about all the music, just listing off bands and music that I like or that have inspired me. Um, a lot of it, other people would go ew, but Aerosmith. I like Aerosmith. Black Sabbath. Like Black Sabbath. I like Ozzy Osbourne. Um, I even, as much as I resisted it at first, I like bands like Stone Temple Pilots. I like Pearl Jam, um, Soundgarden, Mudhoney, Temple of the Dog, Tad, um, Godflesh. You guys know Godflesh? That is not Jack and Coke, Michael Phillips. That is a cup of tea. Believe it or not, I drink tea because my family's from Ireland and England, and I grew up in New England, which is still, despite being America, still very old world in some ways. So yeah, I drink tea. I always drank tea until just a few years ago, like 5, 6, 7 years ago. I started drinking coffee, but so yeah, I like a good cup of tea. Let's see. My Instagram, Caleb, is Instagram.com/Macintosh USA. Okay, so you guys, here's your proof that Michael Phillips and I are not the same person, okay? Because Michael Phillips is in the chat right now. Okay, so can we put this rumor to rest? Um, unless I'm talking to myself, unless I'm like a mastermind of talking to myself and making it look like I'm two people, which, I'm just not that brilliant, you guys. So, Okay, so a lot of messages retracted. Our democracy still exists in the future. Um, Way down the line, I at some point mm, everything changes. So I mean, literally everything will change eventually. But democracy is sort of like a stepping stone towards that. It's a natural human progression in terms of what existed beforehand, and it came about in order to give people, the ordinary people such as ourselves, the ability to have some free will and some self determination within reason, within the constraints of a society, rather than have sort of a dictatorial government which existed really beforehand, some in some way. But democracy is a natural evolution in human consciousness, and but after a point, we will no longer need it. It will no longer serve us. It will begin to hold us back, in fact, and we will move on to something even better. I don't know what we should call that, but eventually that will happen. Maybe that's a question for Michael Phillips because he has probably more time travel experience than I do at this point. I think most of my experience with said technology is yet to come, not in the past. Maybe it will be in the past, but in my past, I think it's mostly in my future for me in this timeline. Uh, how do I plan to make t- top 10 anime plot twists? That's pretty funny. Hi, Brandon. Hi, Michael. How do you plan to make time travel tech publicly available when you're president? I haven't really fully thought that through, honestly, but I'm sure it will be done in a way that doesn't cause worldwide panic, and we'll figure out how and uh, indeed when, because I think certain things have to be sort of rectified on the world stage before such technology can be made public. We can't run the risk of such technology falling into the hands of potential terrorists and people who want to use it to do harm. So we have to make sure that the security measures are up to scratch before allowing that to happen. And I think that's why it's going to happen at the end of my presidential term, is because it's going to take 4 years to clean up a lot of things before it can be made before the the world can be safer for that technology. So that's my theory on that. Um, Seems very plausible though, and I know what I can accomplish in 4 years. I'm frankly pretty clever when it comes to getting certain things moving forward in a positive way for everybody. Um, so I think it will be safe by 2028, relatively safe. Michael, I think it would be really great if we could do a live stream. Um, I'm still I'm still figuring out how to use this technology, frankly. But if you want to look me up on Skype, I'm on there I can send you my um, a link to my Skype profile if you want to email me through my website, and we could chat on there. I don't know how we could perhaps record something and post it so that it looks like, so that it's clear to everybody that we are not the same person because they think that we are still. Uh, it must just be because you're obviously English and I I'm English-ish. I think they're just racists, frankly. Yes, it is possible to be racist against white people, you guys. Remember that. Okay. I will support the truth. Yeah, well, that's good, Nathan. We should support the truth. And we all want to know the truth. We all want to uncover more truth. And I think that's one thing that will certainly, when time travel becomes public, the facts of history will become more clear because we learn history from biased viewpoints, right? I mean, we learn what was recorded or written down, which isn't necessarily true. Surely we've been lied to a lot. So personally, that's one thing I look forward to maybe researching. But I think my biggest, the thing I'm most forward to is going forward and seeing and maybe even living in the future. I mean, like the way distant future. I think if I could travel to the year 10,000, I would probably not want to come back. So, if anybody wants to help me get to the year 10,000, let me know if you can do that because I think I'm stuck here for right now. I have to do this president thing. And I'm sure it'll be for a good reason. I'm sure it is for a good reason. But I can't leave here just yet. But it's exciting. I'm glad to be here. It's an interesting time. It's really cool to see all these people waking up to uh, the possibilities and being open minded while still respecting the truth. It's an amazing thing. Jimmy, yes, there are many species that go extinct, that have gone extinct, and apparently species go extinct still pretty regularly. So, but hopefully not us. That's one of the goals of what I think we're all trying to accomplish right now is to preserve our species and hopefully even preserve ourselves. Brandon, yes, I think there should be time travel laws, um, guidelines. That's another thing that's going to take some time before we can make it public. I would say probably history books are a lot more accurate in the future due to time travel. Yeah. Yeah, this technology is very limited. And compared to what I've seen, this is extremely limited. But it's the start. It's a start of something. And the great thing about the internet, at least, is that it formulates a sort of global collective consciousness, which is, I think, fantastic. We need to have that because it breaks down the barriers of nationalism and so-called race and religion and economic, social constructs in a pretty organic, gradual kind of way, which is, um, it's what we need. And I think the more people who use the internet, the better the world will become because we can all basically look into each other's living rooms and see what we're like on the other side of the planet. And, you know, eventually we'll all realize that, we're not so different from anybody else. And we're all just people trying to get by on this planet and make the most of these systems that mostly don't serve people, that are, designed to serve some people at the expense of everybody else. And the more we talk about that, I think that the quicker it's going to come to another point of natural progression into something else. But we'll see. Yes, extraterrestrials. Uh, Many people have known that there is such a thing as extraterrestrial life for a long time, and indeed life on other planets, Mars, for instance. Uh, don't believe the stories about people going to Mars, being the first people to travel there, because to my knowledge, the United States and the Soviet Union ran a joint mission to Mars in the 1960s, and we began teleportation to and from Mars in the 1970s. Myself being one of the first people to do that in 1981 as a 6-year-old child with then future President Barack Obama and I believe current future President Andy Bashago. Sorry, someone's whistling at me here. Is that possible that the internet going viral if you show up in 2024 because you're a time traveler? Um, Guys, I'm not really a time traveler. I don't know. You guys keep saying that. It's not like I can just time travel at will. I have had experience with it, but it's not something I do on a regular basis, and it's not something I can do on a regular basis. I'm not in possession of the technology. If anything, I've been dragged along with time travelers and been sort of a guinea pig, maybe. But I do understand quite a bit about it, and I do think that I know enough about it in order to be helpful in how it can be made public. Koalas this year. What's koala, Michael Phillips? I don't know what you mean by that. If you could explain, I'd appreciate it. Koala. Hmm. Are you talking about the? Oh shoot. Okay. Koalas are going to be extinct this year. Kidding me? Is there something we can do about that? Wow, really? Well, that's really sad and infuriating, frankly. Is there something we can do to prevent that? I like koalas. I don't want them to be extinct. Do you? Hey, Mona. Uh, Jimmy, I don't know if China becomes a democracy. I don't know that information. Maybe Michael Phillips does. I, I'm too into myself to know all of the information, to be completely honest. When I was engaged in time travel, I was primarily concerned about um, finding out my own future, what I would accomplish, what I would do. It was a voyage of self discovery for me, perhaps. Um, Perhaps if I get to do more at some point, I would find out more information about these things, but I don't. We could certainly take some koalas and put them somewhere else so that their species at least stays alive. I've seen koalas in captivity in America, and kangaroos too. The town I went to high school in had a zoo with kangaroos. Mm, wow. Well, I think maybe in the future with cloning and time travel, we'll certainly be able to bring certain things back. But I just don't think we should bring back dinosaurs, you guys. That's just insane. Mm. The new China Republic. Wow, that's amazing. Does Donald Trump have any hand in helping uh, bring that about? Like opening, perhaps, I think he's reached out to China certainly a lot more than any recent American administration, and perhaps uh, through his outreach, he's helped or helps make that happen. I don't know. Just a second, you guys. Um, so, Michael, what about Cuba? What do you know about Cuba in 10 years or so? Is there anything interesting going on? Because I have deep interest in Cuba because it's obviously right off the coast of Florida, where I grew up a little bit in Florida, and I always feel for the Cuban people because the ones that I encountered in Florida, they can't really go home. Is there some point where Cuba is a good place for them to be and a safe place for them to be? Perhaps by 2024 or 25, maybe. I did used to drink Jack and Coke, though, Michael Phillips. But you would know that, I suppose, because you seem to actually know things about me, which is really interesting. Hmm. So, hmm. Yeah, that's what I thought, Michael. I mean, I figured they would see a better way. So, what else do you know about me that I should know? Is there something I should know about myself that I may not know at present? Because, for me, a lot of things, my life in some ways is a voyage of self-discovery, and I think that's just the trip that I've been on. And I think to know oneself is, you know, helpful in knowing how you can better the world and at least not be a negative influence on other people. Hmm. 1980. Where did we meet? Was it in 1980? I remember being in four different countries as a 6 year old child. So, which country did we meet in? I was all over the place as a kid. So, was I a kid or okay, just outside London? I was in London in 1980. Was it at an airport? Was it at an airport? Did we meet at an airport? And was I a child? In 1980, I was in, yeah, I was in, let's see, I was mostly in Canada. I was in uh, Chicago, Boston, Dublin, and London. So four different countries. What was I like as a 5 year old? Hmm. I wish I could remember. Hmm. Was there something that happened then that I may not remember that might be important? Because I know there's a lot of memory in there that I haven't accessed because I was memory suppressed for a long time. Hmm. So in 1980, did you travel back to 1980 as an adult? Like for you, was it just recent or was it a while ago for you? Yeah, I know that is standard procedure, but I have kind of fought my way through Hmm. I fought my way through a lot of the memory suppression. That is how I was able to remember my experience in the Mars jumper program in 1981 in California. And my first encounters with extraterrestrials. Hmm. Now I'm trying to remember everything. I'm really trying. It's very hard to remember that far back, you know, especially, yeah, that was Alberta, but they teleported me to from Alberta to California. Now what? Now what the heck was I doing in London? Because I don't really remember it actually. I'm not even sure. And how did I get there? Hmm. I know I wasn't there for a long time. It was just a short visit. Hard to remember. Yeah, I would have been with my parents, obviously, or at the very least my mom. I wasn't always. My dad was like off doing work sometimes when I was real little. And, yeah, my family. I have a lot of family that are English who were living in London around that time. So I did stop to visit them numerous times. I think that early. It's hard to remember though. Hmm. I I will have to wonder why everybody is so obsessed about World War III. Does anybody actually want that to happen? Because I know I certainly don't. And I think that if we focus on making it not happen, then we have a better chance of it not happening. Um, so personally, I'm choosing to focus on how we can avoid it. I've been focusing on that for a long time already as well. I think we need more people to focus on not having that happen because we can't afford it. We can't afford World War III. The risk to our species, civilization, our planet, the risks are too great. So why would anybody entertain that question? It seems absurd. Like, don't you guys realize that it's just not feasible and that we should be focusing on it not happening? and taking every precaution to ensure that nothing happens that could instigate a war. Like, you know, being more careful. Yeah, I felt that too, Michael. I felt like there are people here who are have been against me for a long time, and I didn't necessarily even know it because I didn't know everything about myself. I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing. But I think there have been people that are trying to stop me, and I know what my agenda is. My agenda is, the yeah, my agenda is good, but I think there have been people out to try to stop me, and I didn't realize the magnitude of it until not that long ago. Um, when I started to figure out that I should be campaigning for office, which was I I I'd thought about it for a long time, and the thought has constantly entered my mind in my life, but I didn't really realize that it was what I was supposed to be doing until a few years ago, like 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago or so. And then I discovered your video, your first video, and that was really weird for me. I was like, oh wow, it's real. It is real. It is what I'm supposed to be doing. It was a little bit of a shock at first, but not totally surprising because by that point I had already discovered the truth of time travel, and so I'm kind of surprised that there isn't more because I know that, like, once I've realized that I'm supposed to do something, that it's pretty much inevitable that it will happen. I'm kind of surprised that there isn't more stuff, frankly. But yeah, at first it was, it was like, oh wow, yeah. It wasn't a huge shock, but it was a little bit. I mean, you know, I've had bigger shocks in my life. Let's just leave it that way. Um, I'm not fighting against. See, this is the thing. I'm not against Oprah Winfrey. Um, I think if anything, Oprah Winfrey is going to be against me. I think that I am. I have a very close relationship with um, God. Frankly, I'm. I consider myself to be a very spiritual minded and spiritually oriented person. And when I know God has a purpose for me, I know that nothing's going to stop it. And anyone who's trying to stop that from happening is is against me. I'm not against them necessarily. And I like Oprah Winfrey. I'm not against Oprah Winfrey. I just think I'll make a better president than her. It's really that simple. I don't want Oprah to have a to not be a successful person. I want her to be as successful as she she can be. Um, I just think that if America wants a good president, it's going to become really obvious who that person is going to have to be by 2024. And really, there's only one person for the job. That's the person that gets it. Well, I just think I'm that person. And I think it's what God has in mind for me, frankly. I've prayed about it extensively. And I've always known I was supposed to do something important with my life. And I think this is it. Really. I can see that maybe, but you know, Kennedy, I think, is one of the greater presidents, and Lincoln is one of the greater presidents. They're both heroes to me, frankly. And I would certainly look at both of them as examples of what to do with the power of the presidency. So maybe that's just what people are, what people mean. I would, I would effectively be following in their footsteps, just not, hopefully, not getting assassinated. That's my goal is to avoid getting assassinated and to follow through on some of the work that Lincoln and Kennedy started and to help finish it in a way that is good for everybody, not in a way that leaves unanswered questions and leaves people embittered or or is tragic. I want to see these things resolved because Lincoln and Kennedy, both brilliant men, um, left us with some very seriously unanswered questions and unfinished business, unfinished work. So I would definitely seek to follow in their footsteps in terms of uh, goals and accomplishments. Well, it's good to know I'm in good company, Michael Phillips. People will think of me as like Lincoln or JFK. I think that's pretty amazing. Huh. Does Johnny Rotten ever get to be governor of California? That's my question. Just a sec. I think John Lydon would make an excellent California governor. He's a great guy. I met him once and he was fantastic. He's now a U.S. citizen, so he can certainly run for office. That would be incredible, actually. So, John Titor. I'm familiar with John Titor. I was actually talking with a person recently who says they are John Titor, and he didn't want to talk with me. He was kind of upset with me for some reason. Hmm. So I'm wondering if you're saying I get compared to Lincoln or JFK. I don't. Do I end up being assassinated like them? Do I have something to look out for? Because I mean, I know people have been out to get me for a long time now. That's to me obvious. But are there going to be attempts to end my life in the future? Do I need to start packing 24/7? And do a lot of people from this time section get to travel to the future to live? Because I know once I, hmm, yeah, well, there are obviously forces that will work against anything good or any good aim, because some people have nothing better to do than to you know, malign others and attack them because they can't stand to see other people succeed. In 2075, that's, let's see, that would be the 2072. Is Janu Oliver Beck president at that point in 2075 in the United States? And who are the presidents up to that point? There are. Do I get a second term at some point? I kind of foresee that I could do a second term in like 2068, and that also my both of my children would end up being presidents also. Um, yeah, that's what I thought. That is what I thought. So I did, okay. So I did see the future. It's amazing. You know, there's only one U.S. president who's ever done that. Had one term and then took a break and then did another term. It's only ever happened one time, and that's Grover Cleveland. I guess I'm Grover Cleveland, part two. Yep, that's what I thought. And I have probably the first female vice president, right? Is that true? I think so. And I changed the law that allows younger people to be in office in order to stop them. Yeah, in order to give them more uh, say in our country so that they can have more power to decide whether or not we end up in wars or not. Hopefully not. That's why I'm seeking to change the requirements for president, is so that old people don't keep sending our young people off to fight wars. Because, I mean, I know people who got sent to Vietnam when they were 19 and saw all their buddies get killed, and I don't want that to happen ever again. I want to make sure that never happens. Huh. But yeah, Michael, I do like a Jack and Coke, but this is tea. There's a tea bag in there. Tea. Wow. So I'm starting to freak out a little bit, you guys, because Jack and Coke, Jack and Cherry Coke is really good. Tried that. Mm. I really wish I could remember 1980 all that well, but I was only 5 years old. Um, I don't remember much before that, frankly. Some of my earliest memories are in 1980, and I just know that I was with my parents a lot, or all the time, especially my mom and my mom's family. And I was in, I believe I was in England. I was in Canada, Boston, Chicago, and Ireland. I don't think I was anywhere else. That was the year that I first saw ET craft, or what I believe to be ET craft. It was a gigantic space ship in the Rocky Mountains when I was camping in the summer of 1980, and in Alberta, yes. And that was, I think, the year I first kissed a girl. Uh, that was also the year I discovered, might have been Playboy in my neighbor's basement. I discovered Playboy magazine that year. That was the year I discovered Kiss, the band Kiss, and Blondie, Debbie Harry, and yeah, disco was still pretty big, and punk was kind of taking over. Hmm. So, Michael, when are you and I going to meet again? 'Cause, I, it's very hard for me to remember 1980, but I'd like to meet you again. at some point. I think that would be nice. If you are, I don't know if you're, you don't have to tell me where you are if that's not safe, but we could arrange something off chat to meet up somewhere. And, that would be cool. And I'd really like to know how the heck I'm going to end up becoming president because, I don't really know how to run a campaign other than to start really early, which I did. Um, okay, in 2021. That makes sense. I can see that happening. I'll certainly be in and out of Europe, various parts of Europe in 2021, if all goes according to my plan. I do have business in, uh, let's see, Dublin, London, Berlin, somewhat in Paris. So I plan on probably being in all of those places in 2021 for my business, for business purposes. Um, Maybe we can meet in one of those places. Um, when I'm in Europe, I like to when I'm if I'm traveling in Europe, I like to stay in Dublin and travel from there um, to various points because I have a lot of family in Ireland, and most of my family in England is has moved out of London, so they're not really centrally located anymore. They're all kind of out away from London. Um, but yeah, it would be cool if we could meet up in any of those places. So, hmm, a cup of tea. Hmm. So Ann Coulter becomes president too, huh? Later on, and Arnold Schwarzenegger, I believe, becomes president for 4 years, and my son becomes president. Am I vegetarian yet? I've been in and out of being vegetarian for a long time. I was vegetarian for 9 years at one point in my life. Right now, I can't honestly say that I am, but I am endeavoring to become again a vegetarian because I've always felt healthier when I don't eat animals. So it's a goal of mine to become vegetarian, fully vegetarian. Most definitely. I just need more encouragement and support, frankly. My wife cooks meat, so I eat it, and she's a good cook. So it's hard not to eat her cooking. What political party am I gonna run as? I th- Look, honestly, guys, I'm not really in a political party. I'm probably going to have to be a Republican. And the truth of the matter is, though, that I am completely in the center of Republican and Democrat. I don't see myself truthfully as either. But we all know how the US political system works. And right now, you have to pick one or the other. So I just think there's more presently common sense going on in the Republican Party. And I think the Democrats are a little way out to left field, frankly. They're not, yeah, they're not they're not the party they used to be. Like if you were talking Democrat, like I probably would have been a Democrat when Bill Clinton was president, because despite all his shortcomings, I think he was a good president, uh, and he was a Democrat. But then, you know, I just think right now there's more sensibility going on in the Republican Party and more listening to the people and less kind of wanting to force an agenda on everybody that people don't want to accept. Yeah, um, that is something I seek to do, Michael, is to bring people together despite party affiliations because I've seen it recently uh, in the last 20 years just how badly um, America's been divided over political parties, and we need to stop it. We just need to stop it and stop viewing each other as red or blue and start viewing each other as, first of all, human beings, and secondly, as, you know, co participants in this experiment that we call the United States. And it is an experiment, it's an experimental government. Whether we can have differences of opinion and still get along is kind of the proving point as to whether this experiment actually works or not. If we can't get along and still, if we can't disagree and still get along with each other, then the experiment has failed. So I don't think we're trying hard enough. I think we need to stop with the back and forth, left, right, and demonizing each other because of one leaning or the other, and just get along as human beings. And we haven't been doing that. Like, we really haven't been doing that. Do you guys know what the triple S is when you're flying, for instance? You get the four S's, SSSS on your boarding pass. Like, it's been so polarized that I have been on terror watch lists because of um, just calling out the divisive political rhetoric and the political dealings of certain administrations, Republican and Democrat. They're using tools that are there to prevent terrorism in order to cause problems. They've been doing that. I'm not saying Donald Trump's doing that. I don't see him doing that. But the previous administrations were. They were putting people on terror watch lists that really don't belong on them. I mean, guys, I'm an evangelical Christian minister. How the heck could I possibly be or belong on a terror watch list? I uphold the Constitution better than the president, probably. Certainly the last two presidents before Trump. Maybe that was the problem. They didn't like the Constitution, maybe, and they were putting people on watch lists who were in favor of and supportive of the Constitution. Guys, do we even read our Constitution anymore? Does anybody know what the Third Amendment is? Do you guys know the Third Amendment? Tingley, you say, am I libertarian? In the classical sense, I think, yes, I'm a classic libertarian. So I'm all for individual freedoms, the rights of the individual. But I'm also in favor of responsibility. You know, you can't really have rights without accepting responsibility. You have to have responsibility. You have to accept that, you know, if you're going to exercise rights, you also have to view them or view how you use those rights as a responsibility towards not just yourself, but other people. And in this day and age, not just people within your neighborhood, within your state, your town, your city, whatever it might be, not just within your country, but within the world. We have to view ourselves as really like citizens of this planet. And we don't have the right to, you know, assert ourselves in a way that is irresponsible towards our neighbors, our friends and neighbors, family, even that might live in other countries. Um, we need to exercise responsibility if we are to have rights and freedoms. And especially as Americans, we have so much freedom that we need to be very responsible with how we use that freedom because we have so much. We can use our freedom and our power to help or to hurt. And we must be very careful not to use it to hurt others, to hurt people in other countries, to hurt other countries. Um, because when we're doing things the right way, the responsible way, we're nothing but um, a good example. And that's really what we need to be doing more of is looking at ourselves and figuring out how we can be a better example to others. Hmm. Yeah, that was Michael Phillips. That's something I've been talking about is, you know, the complete and total legalization of all plants because that's what they are. They're just plants. It's like, you know, let's. How did that become illegal in the first place, other than for profit? It's like saying let's ban air, and you know we'll sell bottled air because people need to breathe. So that's what they've done. They've banned natural things and replaced it with unnatural things that they can then force us to have to consume for their profits. Doesn't really make any sense when you think about it. So, yeah, that would certainly be my part, a focal part of my second term is the legalization of all plant-based medicine. And hmm, it's interesting, Michael. I do feel like we kind of know each other. Bottled air. Wow, it's crazy. So, so one thing I have to ask, and I suspect is probably true, having done the mathematical work, the mathematical projections. Hmm. Bitcoin replaces fiat currencies for the most part. Am I correct? Bitcoin becomes very valuable, I believe. And those of us who have any of it right now will be very wealthy in the future. Hmm. You say you've known me. Have you been observing me throughout my life so far? Because I have difficulty remembering 1980. Hmm. Interesting. The Amero. I've heard about the Amero. Hmm. The Amero. And am I also correct in assuming that there is? Okay. Well, I might be difficult to find because I did get around a lot. Even you know, I've been all over the place. um, but I'm sure if you're a good investigator, you'll find out where I've been. For instance, I can tell you that I went to high school in Boston in 1988 to 92. So I went to two different high schools. You could probably find me at either of those. Um, Malden High School and Stoneham High School. In 1988, I was in Malden until 1990. Then I was in Stoneham which is a really small school, which would make me very easy to find. Um, I was the guitar player in the after school jazz band. And I was in a sort of weird punk rock band with some school friends of mine. We changed our name a few times, eventually used the name Uncle F for a little while. Uh, and that became Young Astronauts Club. So even back then, I was sort of focused on my music career. And most of the kids in certainly in Stoneham High School at that point would know me as the guy from that band. I had a mohawk, had my head like shaved. It was like longer. I used to wear Doc Martens a lot. A lot of like I might have been wearing a band T-shirt, say like the Misfits or the Sex Pistols or perhaps Red Hot Chili Peppers T-shirt back in the early '90s. Yeah, I was the weird kid. Let's see what else. That would have been like '91 and '92. So if you're looking to find me around that point, that's where I was. Um, from '88 to '90, I was in Malden, which is a pretty large school. I would be difficult to find there. So there were so many kids. But you might find me hanging out at the comic book store near the high school in '88 to '90. I was there a lot. I liked comic books a lot back then. Reading probably Judge Dredd or Batman. I always liked Judge Dredd. Um, 2000 AD. Let's see what else. What I've been doing. From '88 to '90, I might have also been hanging out at the Malden Public Access TV station. I used to study TV production when I should have been doing my algebra homework, but I was there a lot. And I would also have been working part time at a bar in Cambridge that belonged to my uncle called the Plow and Stars, where I was hanging out with Harvard professors, famous musicians. Hmm. I was hanging out with Barack Obama, Annie Bashago. Those guys came to visit me while I was a kid working at my uncle's bar called the Plow and Stars. Uh, um, yeah, but they won't admit it. Let's see. Hmm. What else was I doing? Well, I graduated high school in '92. After that, yeah, they have really bad memories, I can tell. After high school, I mostly focused on my band for about an entire year. I just really did nothing but that. We played lots and lots of shows, made recordings, put recordings out in the stores. Um, I did that and spent a lot of time with my girlfriend at the time. Uh, from '94, I was working in a drugstore. Then I worked in a record store in Kenmore Square in Boston, next to the world famous Rat Rat Rathskeller Club, punk rock club, where I used to play. Um, from like '96, I joined the Carpenters Union in Boston. I was working on a lot of buildings in Boston, and I was doing my band at night and on the weekends and stuff. Let's see, up until about right up to like 9/11, 2001. I was doing that for about 5 years, and I was traveling all around. Though I was in Canada a lot, New York a lot. Started traveling to London, um, Dublin, Amsterdam. Started checking out Eastern Europe. Um, what else? 9/11 happened, and my life has not been normal since then. Frankly, it's been. Mm, yeah, Prague. Now you're freaking me out. Yeah, I did really like Prague. Hmm. I wish I could remember something funny about it, but I'm sure I'll remember. Okay. So I gotta ask, Michael, you were born in what year? You would have been born in like the 2020s. Is that right? You're just about to be born, aren't you? Have you been born yet? Are you here to witness your own birth or something? Is that? And were you born in England? You were born in 2043. Okay. So your parents would be little kids right now. Is that correct? Do I know your parents? Are they friends with my children or something? Or are you like, because my kids know people from all over the world at this point already. Hmm. What happened to your parents? Are they still around in the time that you came here from? Hmm. Hello there, Fabrizio. How are you? Um, Yeah, I can understand that. I do the same thing. I don't tell people a lot about myself, um, because you have to protect your family and all that. That certainly makes sense. I don't tell people where I am. I don't talk about my family. I don't talk about much. I don't talk about a lot of stuff because you can't take these risks. Hmm. So I told you these things in what's my future. It's future for me, but to you it's the past. Is that correct? Okay. So I haven't done this yet. Okay. I see. It's really interesting to know that your future is kind of already written. You just have to sort of make the choice to allow it to happen. Certain things I think are definitely foreordained and predetermined about probably everybody's life. Um, and that's it really. So me being president is kind of unavoidable. Yeah, I think I have a good grasp of how, you know, time works and time travel. But the more I can learn, the better. Please do. Please explain as much as you can. Can I choose not to be president of the United States, or can I choose to be? Is it something that I have to do, or is it the kind of thing where if I don't do it, it's going to turn out badly for everybody? That's the impression that I get. It's ultimately not something I really want to do, but it's something that I believe that has to be done, and that I've kind of already been selected for. Hmm. Just a second, I'm gonna get more tea. Hmm, that makes sense. Hmm. I think maybe what I do is kind of splash a bit. make some waves. That's kind of been my pattern in life, making waves. Nice ones, though. Good waves. Nice, gentle waves that feel nice when they hit you. Not not ones that knock you over or bowl you over, but nice, gentle, calming waves. Waves that make you feel good. It's kind of what I try to do. You got to feel good. If you don't feel good, then it's probably something wrong. But you also have to use your brain and not just go by feelings all the time. But got to feel good. Hmm. Well, I really hope that I can do something to, as you said, unite the country and not just unite the United States more, but I would like to see us getting along better with other countries and other countries having less of an issue with the United States and us behaving in a more responsible way and getting along better with other countries as well, and other countries getting along better with each other, and everybody working on mutual goals and interests rather than competing for anything or and ending all this tit for tat nonsense that goes on because it's all just childish, isn't it? It's yeah. I have a hard. The problem right now is I have a hard time remembering my trip to Prague because it was like 1999, and I'm not gonna lie, I was drinking a lot, like a real lot, and yeah, I was drinking a lot at that point. I've been really sober since shortly after that. I've been totally sober actually for the last 20 years, but that was my early 20s when I was very rock and roll at that point, and I was very caught up in the band thing, and yeah, it's kind of a blur actually. I'm trying to remember the Prague. Hmm. I've got some photos of that. I've got photographs from that. I think I'll have to take a look at them and refresh my memory. It's been a long time since I thought about that whole time period. But yeah, Prague's a nice city. I didn't want to leave actually. I wanted to buy a house in the countryside outside of there and just stay, but I had to get back to my job and pay my bills. Yeah, it's real nice countryside, and at that point, it was just coming out of being communist, so it was actually very inexpensive. 80-cent beers from a vending machine. That's inexpensive to me. Um, I'm just I'm trying to remember it right now. But, hmm. So right about now, can you how heavily memory suppressed am I? I mean, is there very important stuff that I maybe just can't remember right now? The stuff that I'm going to remember that I have to kind of struggle to remember important things because um, my wife and I did a lot of regression therapy to kind of figure out what had happened to me with ET experiences and the Mars program, especially. And we figured out that I had been to Mars like a bunch of times. I don't really remember all of them. Hmm, that's good. Well, I'm looking forward to that then because I really want to, you know, get my memory back. I remember when I first started remembering, I became really sick, like sicker than I'd ever been. I was throwing up and I was having fevers and nausea and yeah, it was not comfortable and very bad headaches and it was like I was hearing programming in my mind telling me not to remember, don't remember. Thing like Wernicke's commands they call them, I think, where they suppress your memory and then they tell you like they put commands in your mind to not remember or this will happen. And I kept having like really bad thoughts when I was trying to remember. Um, and I resisted them and I fought through them and eventually started to remember. Um, and this was all triggered by my again encounter with Andy Bashago online. I came in contact with, yeah, I came in contact with Andy Bashago again. And we started chatting, and he triggered my memory from back then. Yeah, it's hard to remember stuff. Hmm. Oh, one giant blur, though, sometimes, especially when you've been drinking. So stay sober, you guys. Okay, people wanted to know my Instagram. Guess I can tell you. Here's my Instagram. It's my Instagram. Macintosh USA. I do like a beer every once in a while, but I have been totally sober for 20 years. So it's pretty amazing, especially for someone of my background to be. Yeah, so hey, you guys, this This is proof that Michael Phillips and I are not the same person, and that you guys are just a bunch of racists who think that we're the same person. Jeez, what is this? Um, yeah. So Richard Pryor and Eddie Murphy are the same person, right? Pages for the. Yeah, Melissa, I know that's really good. I think if I do end up in the White House, I'm definitely gonna just set aside uh, I don't know, maybe like just a section of our military to just go into Detroit, and instead of um, fighting, we'll get get them to do some demolition work, because we could train tank drivers how to use bulldozers or something, and just bulldoze all those abandoned homes in Detroit. And because it's not safe, it's a security risk at this point. So the president has the authority to use the military to address security risks. So if we're talking about the safety of people, I think that should be considered a security risk. So we can use our military to make Detroit safe again, right? Just knock down all those abandoned homes, and just turn them into parks or something. That shouldn't take very long. Yeah, go right ahead. Tag the Instagram. I've only got a few pictures up on it. I don't really use it very much. Um, it's only got like 6 pictures on it. Insta spam. And that's pretty much all it is. It's Insta spam. And if you really want to help me with my campaign, you guys go to this website and just let the music on it stream, because every time people listen to these tracks, I get some money. So from streaming revenue. So that streaming revenue will go right into my campaign funding. It's not. I'm using everything I can to pay for my campaign. So if you land on that website right there, youngastronautclub.com, music will play. Well, those are songs by my band that I produced and played on and wrote, that every time they get played on YouTube, uh, then I get some money. So if you guys can help me get the playlist on there up to a few thousand or several thousand or 10,000 or 100,000 or a million streams, then I can make more money from YouTube, and I can then have more money to put into my campaign for 2024, and it doesn't cost you guys anything. You get to hear my music for free, and I get paid for it, and we all win that way. So that might be one way to help as well with getting me into the office of president in 2024. And because, it costs $3 million to get on the ballot. So just to get on the ballot, it's about $3 million to get on the ballot in every state. And right now, nobody's funding me except myself. Uh, so if you guys can help me fund myself at least without, you guys don't have to pay anything. Just, you know, if maybe you can put the playlist on repeat or something and just stream it while you're out. And YouTube just puts money right into my PayPal account that way. They for every stream on YouTube, money goes right into my PayPal. Um, and it's nothing out of your pocket if you're already paying for internet service. Uh, so your help is appreciated, your support is appreciated, and I'm here for you guys ultimately. Uh, this is why I'm doing this. I'm not really, you know, I'm I'm not really doing this for myself. I'm doing this because I want to help other people and make sure that there is a better future. It's that simple. Um, and help, if I can help keep us on course to and away from potentially negative decision making. Um, that's another key reason why I'm seeking to step into the office is to basically prevent crazy people from getting in and making bad decisions that will negatively affect us and future generations. Because we can't afford this anymore, you guys. We can't take these kinds of risks in the 21st century. We could barely afford them with the 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 first couple of presidents of this century. We could have done a lot better, um, and we need to make sure that we are doing a lot better from this point forward and learn from our mistakes. Don't let crazy people in the White House anymore. Yeah, yeah. Well, I think Trump has Sanders beaten for sure. Seems like Trump's going to win by a landslide, despite the probable mistake with the Iran thing. But it seems like he's going to keep Sanders out of the White House, and that's a good thing in my opinion. And Oprah Winfrey isn't even running just yet, so I I'm ahead of her. But I do think she will run. Seems logical. Seems like she's being pushed to do that, and I don't think she really wants the job. Frankly, I think if Oprah does run, she probably knows that I'm running already, seeking to run, campaigning already, and she knows I'll be a good president. So she probably will campaign and get nominated to let me win because she's nice. She's a good person. Let's be honest. Oprah's a good person, and I'll be a good president for her. She'll be a good uh, other candidate for me. She'll let me win, and I won't. I could never hurt Oprah Winfrey. I love Oprah. do a good job for you, Oprah. Promise. Hmm. Am I ready to live in the White House? I don't know. We'll see. I hope so. I'm gonna have to change the color of the curtains, though. I like purple. I think we're gonna have purple curtains in the White House. I hope that's okay with you guys. Um, as an homage to my late friend Prince. Do you guys like Prince? Oh, you asked me way back in this chat. I was asked who inspired me. Well, Prince was a huge inspiration to me as a kid playing guitar, seeking to be a musician. Uh, Prince was a huge influence, actually, immense influence. And I got to be friends with him later on in his life. He was a really great guy, just an awesome person, really kind, really like just caring. He was a good friend, and I miss him terribly. So, um, I'm gonna have purple curtains in the White House in honor of my friend Prince, my brother Prince. Mm. Yeah, I don't think the Iranians want anything bad to happen. I mean, they just want to be left alone. I think the Iranian government, and I don't think they necessarily have a problem with the United States as much as they have a problem with what Israel is doing in the United States and what Israel is doing in the region. I think that's their biggest beef. I don't think they necessarily have a problem with America or Americans, just some of the things that our government does because of the Israeli influence. That's what they have a problem with. And frankly, a lot of Americans do too. We don't have a problem with Iranians or Iran itself necessarily. It's like I think we are kind of annoyed by the uh, excessive influence that Israel has in the United States government, and wish that would change, and that the United States government would be more reflective of the will of the American people rather than foreign influence like that of the state of Israel. Um, Now, that's not to say we're against Israel either. We're not, but Israel is not the United States. Why does Israel have, frankly, any say in how America's run, what American foreign policy is, how our military operates, who we're friends or enemies with? That's none of their business. I like Iran. I like Iranian people, I should say. I've met many Iranian people, and they're all great. I don't think any American in their right mind would have a problem with Iranians or seek to be in a conflict with Iran. That's pointless. That's not the will of the American people. Yeah, I'm old. I was born in the 70s, 1974. Really change immigration laws. Hmm. think we're going to have a more rational immigration policy in the future. And as long as collaboration is in place with other countries and mutual respect, then that lays a better ground for different immigration policies. But we have to respect each other. People have to respect different different people from different countries have to learn how to fundamentally respect each other more and treat each other as we would like to be treated. Hmm. I hope that I can bring more some dignity to the office, Melissa. That's really what I'm seeking to do. It's part of what I'm seeking to do is bring more dignity to what we're about and more respect to what America's supposed to be about. And not just from foreign from looking at it from what other countries people in other countries think, but even what we as Americans think about it, because I think we do have a sort of unnecessary disrespect at times for our government, and that can make it very difficult for people who work in the government to do anything effectively for the people, really. But a healthy level of skepticism is always good. I suppose it keeps people on their toes. Hmm. Well, it's nice to see you guys all chatting in here. Um, I think it would be cool if you guys all followed each other or subscribed to each other as well. Just a suggestion. Mm. Oh, okay, so how did you're asking me how I time traveled? I time travel with aliens, and that's the truth. Um, I I first time traveled that I remember when I was 6 years old. Oh, wait, 5 years old. Sorry. Uh, Living in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. I was visited by extraterrestrial beings when I was in my bed late at night. They took me out of my bed via like a tractor beam or something. Literally phased me through the wall. I don't know how they did that. Took me out of a craft, like a disc-shaped craft, like like you see in the depictions of the Roswell incident, and space and time traveled me all around, everywhere, for a very long time. then they put me back in the same moment, almost the same moment that they took me from. Uh, and I was gone for a long time, but it seemed like I had only been gone for moments. My parents didn't notice that I was gone because I was literally put back in the same, virtually the same moment. Hmm. Atom displacement. Yeah, I'm I'm sure they have all kinds of technology such as that. I don't doubt it. Uh, if we were just a little bit smarter, we would have developed those things ourselves as well. But I don't think we're that smart. I think that most of the real advanced technology that humans have or have acquired comes from extraterrestrials. Yeah, yeah, with their help. So basically, they gave it to us. um, no, I don't think they're way smarter than we will ever be, Melissa. I think that basically they're just they've had more opportunity to uh, develop because their civilization is not as chaotic as ours, and um, they have they've just been around longer than us. I think really probably they are us, like we are them. They're just a future version of us, perhaps. And they can travel space and time and come back to see us. That's what I think. I also think that no, they don't really have wars and conflicts, not like we do. I mean, at this point in human history, we're insane with wars and conflicts. Like, look at the 20th century as, for instance, historically, it's the most violent century of human that humanity has ever experienced. The amount of death and destruction caused by wars and conflict in the last 100 years have been worse than any century in human history ever. Who knows, maybe worse than all of them put together. So the problem with us is that we're negatively influenced by things that we can't even physically see. There are, malevolent forces working against us and causing all of this stuff. They're behind the scenes. If whatever you want to call it, if you believe in the Bible, I believe in the Bible, and it refers to these malevolent forces as Satan and demons, and the Bible clearly shows us that they've been running the show, running the earth since 1914 thereabouts, when World War One broke out, and they've been controlling the governments, and they're behind the scenes. Other people have other names for them. It's just different terminology for different things. But ultimately, we're living in a time period where human civilization is influenced by negative forces that a lot of us don't even realize exist. And it's not human, it's non human malevolent forces seeking to cause chaos in human society, and they've done a very good job at that. If you look at the last 100 years, last 110 years, um, I believe that those forces are soon to be removed from the earth, and we're living in what the Bible refers to as the end times, and I think we're in the end of the end times, frankly. So these forces are they're going to be removed one way or another, and it's been an ongoing war with these malevolent forces um, all of my life. No, you guys talk away. It's fine. That's what we're here for. It's all about communicating. I don't seek to control or tell anybody what to say or do to anybody or where they can say anything. I'm not going to block or censor anybody. I'm absolutely against that kind of thing. So I'm all about freedom of speech and using it in whatever way you see fit. So converse amongst yourselves. It's totally fine with me. Freedom of speech. If we don't have freedom of speech, then what do we have, really? If they take away our free speech, then what have we got left? Nothing. So never let people take away your ability or right to speak freely whenever and under whatever circumstances you see fit. Melissa, yeah, definitely a lot of people have been in contact with extraterrestrials in my understanding. I've people I know have encountered them along with me. Um, so yeah, they might not remember right now. I haven't talked to some of these people in a long time, but I recall being at. I was living in a house with some friends. I was renting a house. My band used to play and rehearse there, and one day my housemate, my housemates, and my girlfriend, and a girl who was friends with one of my housemates. We're all sitting around the kitchen, and a craft appeared in the backyard. And I had already met them, and they came to talk to me, and for me to show my friends what they were all about. And I went on the craft and came back, and my friends were all freaked out. And then I think they all convinced themselves that it never happened. But yeah, so other people have seen them. It's just some of us have a closer relationship with the extraterrestrials than others, and understand them better and can get along with them better, I guess. But eventually, we'll all kind of hopefully get along with each other. Isn't it interesting, Michael, to know that even in 2075, as I'm sure you're aware, There are people who don't believe in time travel. Think of it now. There are people even now that still believe the Earth is flat. So I don't think we're ever going to convince everybody of everything that's true. Some people are just naturally skeptical of every single thing. Like they wouldn't believe that they were looking at themselves in the mirror when they're looking at themselves in the mirror. It's like they don't realize what they're looking at. I would assume so, Melissa. I'm not from 2075, but I'm sure Michael Phillips can answer that. I think he knows. There are people in 2075 who don't believe time travel is real. They're probably flat earthers in 2075. Mm-hmm. Yep, that's what I'm here for too, Michael. I realize that. I'm here to help save people's lives. Flat earthers, people who believe the earth is flat. Those people are here. They're around right now. I know, crazy, huh? Mm. Well, I know that. I know Galileo proved it, and they locked him up for being crazy or heretical or whatever. So, you know, true science is always ahead of what probably the majority of people will be able to comprehend. That's why scientists are often the ones who drag the rest of us kicking and screaming into the present and the future. Um, I've always endeavored to take a scientific approach to things, and I really encourage my children as well in the ways of science and scientific study and investigation when it comes to establishing truth. Um, I personally wish I had more of an opportunity to study science, but that was not to be for me. But I am an avid student of science, scientists, especially great scientists of history, such as Galileo, Da Vinci, Isaac Newton, um, Albert Einstein. Let's see, particularly, I love the research and work of Sir Isaac Newton. I think he was an amazing human being, frankly. Hello, Indonesia. Hmm. Do you want me to try doing an English accent? Hello, my name is Michael Phillips. See, I can do a kind of English accent, but that's not Michael Phillips's English accent. He has a different accent. Mm. Oh, I know. Newton was astounding. Like he was just astounding. He was a true genius. He was definitely, yeah. Newton was amazing. Hello, my name is Michael Phillips. No, I can do a better Michael Caine impression actually than Michael Phillips. Let me try it. Here's my Michael Caine impression. Hello, my name is Michael Caine, and not a lot of people know that. Good. Hello, mate. How's it going? You right? All right. Hmm. 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 The benefits of having spent a childhood in uh, 4 different countries uh, can be very interesting because I can almost accurately portray several different accents. I'd be a pretty good actor, I think, if I were acting. Uh, but I'm not acting. This is me. Um, I just have kind of a generic Northeast USA accent, I think, for the most part. Northeast. Like an American TV accent. Hi, Nathan. Yes, I can remote view. That was I think, why I was um, drafted into the CIA when I was 6 years old, because they needed someone to remote view the surface of Mars, which I did. Yeah, I had this YouTube channel a long time ago, Miguel, and yeah, the fires in Australia. I think that maybe someone wants to do some real estate development, and they don't care about the natural habitats of uh, koalas and other animals, and that's why the fires exist. But yeah, I can remote view. I'm not gonna do it right now because it's very tiring. I I could see what people look like on this chat if I really wanted to, but that's just too taxing. It's very tiring. You guys should read about Edgar Cayce. He remote viewed and astral projected, and he did it so much that it killed him. So I don't really want to end up like Edgar Cayce. So I'm not going to do that unless I absolutely have to. Uh, I have, you know, done that, and I'm always very tired afterwards for like days. It takes a lot out of me. Hmm. Let's see. Just a minute, you guys. I will be right back. All right. So here I am. I'm back again. All right, that's better. I don't like I'm remote viewing my hair. I don't like it. My own hair. So I gotta wonder, Michael, does my hair fall out within the next year? Does do I go bald within the next couple of years? 'Cause kind of kind of feels like I probably will. I don't know. Right. So where were we? This is the longest ever live chat that I've done. My hair just falls out when I become president. That makes sense. I mean, I'll probably be pulling it out. And what about Donald Trump? Is he part of the agenda to keep me? Like, he doesn't want me to be president, does he? I don't think he does. I think maybe he starts to like me eventually, but like, I think he initially is very much against the idea. And I know Barack Obama didn't. Barack Obama does not like me at all. That much I'm sure of. And let's see, who else doesn't want me to become? Andy Bashago does not want me to become president because he's, I don't know. I was talking with him recently. Yeah, that's what I thought about Obama. Barry kind of, I think he's very insecure, just in his own sort of manhood. I think he's very kind of doesn't really deal with uh, other people very well, basically. Mm. Is Andy the first openly gay president? I'm just kidding. Uh, I don't think Andy is gay. I was on a radio show with him recently, and he was talking about his girlfriend. So I don't know. It seems like he's probably not gay, but he did um, sort of go out of his way to deny. Yeah, that's kind of obvious, but I think well, Andy did go out of his way to deny ever having met me before. Like he didn't want people to think that we may have met before. Uh, Probably because he's a lawyer, and I'm now a lawyer too, so I understand like why he did that. But the legal ramifications of admitting to seeing a 6-year-old child on the surface of Mars are quite significant. So, yeah, Andy has to look as good as possible, I suppose. But, you know, he needs to chill out. No one's out to get him. My thoughts on gun laws? Are you kidding? I think the only gun law we need is the Second Amendment, don't you? I mean, what other gun laws do we need? Let me tell you. All right, if you want to talk about gun laws, let me talk about that for a minute because this is this is important, right? Um, I grew up in mostly in the suburbs of Boston and like Cambridge. Everybody, and I mean everybody, has guns in New England. It's a very heavily armed place. Now, I've lived in other places, and I've traveled a lot to places where people don't have as many guns. And I have noticed the difference in crime rates. There's much higher crime in places where people have fewer guns. It's more violent in other places where people don't have guns. Uh, there are more home invasions. There are more robberies, rapes, stabbings, knifings, uh, muggings, you name it. Drug drug dealing, drug crime. And the criminals shoot more people because they don't care about gun laws. So I just look at it from that standpoint. I grew up in a place where people have guns and it's safer. It's quiet, it's peaceful, relatively. There's not much crime. Uh, the neighborhoods are safe. People's homes don't get broken into. But then you go to Chicago or parts of California or even the UK. Um, yeah, places where people don't have them. And it's just not as safe, you guys. So just from that standpoint, I would strongly encourage all Americans to maintain their right to bear arms. And if your government ever tries to take them from you, don't have them. I would never do that as president. I would never seek to take away people's arms, period. I'm strongly in favor of an armed civilian populace because realistically, the police can't take care of everything for you. The army can't take care of everything for you. You have to be able to stand on your own 2 feet and protect and defend yourself from whatever, especially your own government. I think that's going to be the biggest problem for Americans in the future is your own government, our own government, seeking to disarm and oppress you. So the only way to keep them from doing that is to keep your guns. Because if you can shoot them, and if they know you can shoot them, they're not going to try to pull any crap on you. So Just remember that. And know that the Second Amendment is the law, regardless of what anybody else says. Nathan, I'm going to probably do 2 terms. I'm just not going to do them back to back because I'm telling you right now, I'm not going to do 2 terms. Yeah, I don't want 2 terms. Not back to back. I don't really even want 1 term, but I'm doing it because I know someone has to, and I don't see anybody else who can do as good of a job in 2024 as me yet. There is, if that person does come along, I'll endorse them. But I don't think that person exists. So, till that person shows up, here I am. So, I'm here for you guys. That's all I'm saying. Someone's got to be. Mm. And here's the truth. I think that 8 years is probably, at this point, too much for anybody. I mean, look what happened recently. We had George W. Bush for 8 years. It was a disaster. We had Barry Soetoro for 8 years. Worst president ever. Now we're probably going to have Donald Trump for 8 years. You guys, I think we're going to be sick of Donald Trump by the end of his second term because, you know, it's too much power. And he's going to blow it at some point. He's going to do something that's, you know, after 8 years, even the smartest and sanest of people, the way the laws are right now, lose it, lose the plot, lose focus. And we need to fix certain things before we can realistically have an 8 year president ever again. So I'm just going to set a pattern, I think. Set an example. I'm not power hungry or greedy or going to not looking to get anything out of it. I'm just looking to help people because I care about people. It's what I do. I'm a minister. I'm a Christian minister. I care about people. And I'm here to help. I probably shouldn't even be doing this, frankly, but if I don't do it, I just think there's going to be just really bad options for you guys otherwise, and for us. And I've just had enough. I personally have had enough. I know a lot of other people have too. We've had enough. Mm. Yeah, you're right, Michael. I'm starting to feel a little bit nauseous. And I'm starting to remember something that Just some feelings, some feelings. Mm, yeah, memories. Memories. And, for me, the thing about memory is I'm not really the kind of person that dwells on past things anyway. So I kind of tend to delete memory. I mean, it's obviously stored in there, but it's not something that I dwell on. It's the past. I'm constantly focused on the future and um, how the present, although not the worst it could possibly be, um, could be better, which is why we owe it to ourselves and each other to work in the present to create a better future so that in the future we will have a better present. Does that make sense? And I'm constantly focused on that type of thinking, which is why memories and getting to remember things, it's not something I focus on very much or have focused on ever really that much in my life. Um, I don't come from a place of nostalgia because, you know, I'm not that kind of person. I'm just not someone that has a fondness for the past. I have a fondness for making and creating a better future so that at some point in the present, I'll be and we will be more content with what our reality is. And that's why for me, like the whole Make America Great thing again, I don't know. Make America Great Again thing. Um, it's sort of a nostalgia trip, and I'm not really like I would rather work on making the greatest that it possibly can be, you know, and then being able to look back and say, well, we did that. We made it the greatest. It is the greatest, and we made it that way. That's what I aspire to, if that ever happens. Why didn't I try earlier, Nathan? I'm only 45. I mean, let's see. The last election, I would have been like 40, and to run against Donald Trump, realistically, there's no way I could have beaten him. It would have been a waste of my energy. So it was not something I really would have considered doing. Is not I would not have considered competing against Donald Trump. Before that, it was Barack Obama. I don't think that was going to happen either. And before that, I was too young. You have to be 35 to run for office. So, um, Leon, I don't necessarily want to change things that much. I just think there are some key things that need to be fixed, um, and some serious dangers that need to be deterred and prevented from some people with very seriously dangerous agendas that need to be prevented from ever getting into office, and I intend to stand in their way. Hmm. I don't know what I think, Melissa. If, people might not really understand at first what I'm trying to accomplish by becoming president. I think a lot of people will really not want to reelect me in the first place because I think they're gonna, because I'm running as a Republican, they're gonna be expecting another Donald Trump. But guess what, guys? I'm not Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Hi, Jimmy. Yes, I am getting a little tired. I've been on here for 3 hours, and frankly, I don't tend to go this long without taking a 15-minute break or so. Uh, yeah, I am seeking to make things especially fairer for younger people, Michael, because you know, let me tell you something. My father-in-law, right, for instance, he's a decent guy, right? I like him. He's a good guy. When he was a teenager, or he was a kid, basically, he was a kid during Vietnam, and he was forced to either sign up for the military or be drafted and sent to the front lines and get killed. So he signed up. Now, he had no voice in the decision to go to war. Yet here he was being forced into a position where he was, and a lot of his friends were killed. Um, to me, that is unfair. It's injustice towards our younger people that that can ever happen or that anything like that can still happen today. And it can, despite there being no draft. The government always, especially recently, manipulates the economic system so that younger people can't make a living unless they involve themselves in military endeavors such as what happened in Iraq, uh, what's gone on in Afghanistan, what's gone on in all over Africa since Obama was president. And I just think that unless Trump is really careful, he's going to be manipulated into doing the same thing. And harm will come to our younger people. And I don't want my kids to grow up in that. I've spent half my life so far avoiding getting sucked into those kinds of things because that's what the powers that be want for people like me to be cannon fodder. And that's what they want for people like you guys. They want you guys to be cannon fodder for their agendas. And I want that to end. It's that simple. So that's why, yes, I do want to change some of the laws, especially where it relates to who can be president, because the president is the one who makes these decisions. Now, if those decisions can be made about you, then they should be, you should be able to make those decisions for you. Does that make sense? Because otherwise, we're living in what's tantamount to a military dictatorship by de facto. Um, I want to change that completely. And I know a lot of other people do too. It's not just me. I think we all know this is wrong. And, I wish that I could have been around during the time when Vietnam happened and been able to do something about it to prevent all those lives being lost. Think of all those mothers that grew up without their sons or that lived without seeing their sons fully become men. And think about all those, children whose young children whose dads never came home, for instance, or veterans who still can't function properly in society because they saw some horrible things or did some horrible things that they didn't want to do, but their government used them as pawns in a game. Well, that's not fundamentally what our country's about, and somewhere along the line lost our way. I just intend to try to do whatever I can to get it back on track. And I think that will be a great example for the rest of the world. And it will bring you know, it'll bring us all closer together. And may there never be another king in America. May there never be a king in America ever, except Jesus Christ. And I mean that sincerely. Whenever we put other people in a position of being in power over us, we're ignoring the fundamental purpose of our Constitution and the fundamental reason why the United States of America came into existence. Because, we're all just citizens, really. We're all just in it together. Nobody is better than anybody. And we should all view each other as equals, more or less, and on the same level and in this together. And when we start elevating anybody, then we're so I think it's time to correct it. We need to correct some things, you guys. How many time travelers are in the chat? I'd say there's a few there, Kels. There are people who have time traveled, maybe not myself being one of them. So let me scroll back up a little bit here and see what other people are saying. What's that about Martin Luther King? Oh yeah. Um, okay, Melissa, hunger and poverty. Uh, Science and technology can solve both of those, which is why we need to invest more in both rather than invest in fruitless things, which we're still doing. And we still spend more on our military than the next, probably the rest of the world combined. Who the heck knows? I don't even know. But we can't solve hunger and poverty and homelessness. Yeah, right. I America could solve world hunger, but we're not doing that because the focus isn't on that. Um, we could eliminate homelessness in our country overnight, but we're not doing that. We're letting banks control everything. Why? Why? There's no reason for that. None whatsoever. We can solve so many things if we just put the right people in and focus and be determined to not get distracted and not get sucked back into old ways of doing things. And it's not going to be easy. Nothing worth doing is easy. The hardest thing to do is always the right thing to do. It's just the way it is. It's easy to do the wrong thing. It's really easy. You make this. Yeah, the small business is a positive thing, Michael. Bill Clinton knew that. For instance, the United States economy was the best that it had ever been but when Bill Clinton was president, and he knew to focus on the small businesses. There was more support for small business during the Clinton administration years than ever in the history of America. And guess what? The economy was better than it had ever been in the history of America. So, small businesses pay their taxes always. Most small businesses pay their taxes better than corporations, pure and simple, which is why there needs to be support for small business and encouragement for small businesses and networks for small businesses to work together. And the federal government is insane not to get behind that because, if the federal government is effectively a corporation and a corporation needs profits to run, well, those profits can come in the form of taxes from small businesses. The taxes don't have to be unreasonable, but it's a win-win situation when you focus on small business. Anyone with half a brain can see that, but we just don't have the will to make these things happen in Washington, D.C., because it's tightly controlled by special interests, and I think including perhaps the current administration is controlled by special interest to some extent, to the point of where they're not as effective as they could be with making these things happen. And even if Trump wants to see these things happen, I don't think the rest of Washington does. So he's pretty much on his own. We need to just flush it out and get a whole new set of people in on every level. There are people who've been working in Washington for 40 years. And what have they done? Nothing. We need to fire them. It's that simple. Hmm. All right, you guys. Well, here's what I'm going to do, right? Since you guys are chatting, so um, chatting to each other, I don't want to interrupt your chat. I'm going to take a few minutes to go and eat something, maybe get some more caffeine in my system because I'm kind of tired and hungry. I'll be back in a few. Okay. Hang tight. Okay, so I'm back. I was thinking about music that inspired me when I was younger, when I was a teenager and whatnot. Though, um, and I really liked the Skinny Puppy album, Too Dark Park, a lot. If you guys get a chance to check that out, it's pretty good. I also liked the Ministry album, The Mind is a Terrible Thing to Taste, a lot. That's quite an interesting record. Yeah, that was a long 2 minutes. I just ate a whole bunch of cookies and drank some water because, you know, you need water and cookies in your system. Hmm. I think it's also interesting that if you look at my story, Michael Phillips' story, the story of other people who are who are talking about these things, I think you'll find that there's a lot of uh, harmony between what we're all saying. Excuse me. I think you'll find that we're a lot of us in agreement, and the obvious the hoaxers, the fakers, are really obvious. It's really obvious that they don't know what they're talking about, and kind of ridiculous. Mm. And you'll also see that the people who are telling the truth are people who are giving the most detail and sharing the most experience and their stories are all very credible individuals. I like to think I'm one of those people. I think I can look at myself objectively enough to know that I'm not some lunatic who is just looking for attention. I'm you a credible human being, and like I have no reason to do this other than if it's just a genuine desire to get the truth across. That's really it. And we're just trying to create a better future and prevent a really negative one from happening. Ugh, excuse me. Yeah, it's interesting to think that we actually can change certain things too, and that and events are a lot more malleable than people might think. But then also to think that certain things are unchangeable, probably. Like if you could go back and, for instance, prevent Jesus Christ from being executed, would you, or could you even? Isn't that a like a fixed event in history? If you could go back in time and uh, kill Adolf Hitler, could that actually be done? Hmm. I really think that one of those fixed points is me becoming president. Unfortunately, against my will, really, but it's not. But I can't not go along with it. See what I mean? It's like I could choose to, but it wouldn't really work out. See what I mean? It's like, and that's not to say that I'm anything special. I don't really think that I am. I just think I'm here at this point in time to fill a certain pair of shoes in order to prevent some terrible things from happening and hopefully make help make some positive things happen. And that's really it. Mm. Documents from Project Blue Book. One thing I would like to do as president is create an official database, government database online for um, disclosing all manner of things like, yeah, things like Project Blue Book and Majestic 12 and whatever documents and video and photographs and whatnot uh, haven't been destroyed, and just putting them all up on the internet for people to check out. But I mean, here's the thing: if we're going to make public the existence of extraterrestrial life, then isn't that going to be enough proof for people? I mean, do we really need to? Oh, I know the truth about Roswell, but the full truth about Roswell is not something that's documented or provable. It's there are witnesses to it, such as myself. I am a witness to the Roswell incident. In fact, I know why it happened. Um, I know how it happened. I know who was involved, and but I can tell you that I can be a witness to all that. But who's going to believe it? Because they don't have proof. Because there really isn't any proof. There's no proof for a lot of things, but doesn't make them untrue. Um, The Roswell incident happened because of me. Okay, here's a here's something you guys are gonna have a difficult time understanding. But last year, and I'm in contact with extraterrestrials. They come to visit me, and I go places with them. Last year, I was visited. They took me on their craft back to the 1940s in New Mexico. We crashed the craft. I was flying it. We did it in order to get attention from the United States military so that we could meet the president and provide him with proof of the existence of extraterrestrial life, because we needed to begin the Majestic 12 project, MJ12 project. MJ, get it? Michael James, like Michael James Macintosh. So we met with the president, began the Majestic 12 project as an attempt to begin a gradual disclosure since 1947 or so of the existence of extraterrestrial life. So from that point up until now, there has been a gradual disclosure of the existence of ET life, thanks to the Roswell incident, which we did on purpose to get attention. Um, Leading up to now and the near future, so that they don't have names. None of us really have names. Names are just a fabrication of our culture and imagination. Just um, we're all just beings. But this was so that we could work our way up to now to ease people into the idea of the existence of extraterrestrials, so that when full disclosure finally comes, um, people won't freak out and there won't be worldwide panic. That's what Roswell was all about. And by the way, shortly after I met the president back then, uh, Presidents Truman and Eisenhower, I believe, I was transported back to 2019. And one of the ETs died, and that's where the alien autopsy videos and whatnot came from. And one of them is still in captivity up to this day, from 1947 up until now, and he's still alive. They call him Skinny Bob, I think. But we need to free Skinny Bob. You guys should write that on everything. Free Skinny Bob. He's in a holding cell somewhere out in the desert. Skinny Pete. Area 51 is section 51. It's time section 51. The time is divided into sections in the future. And section 51 is the time period during which the Roswell incident happened. I think we're probably living in section 52 or on the verge of crossing over into section 52 at this point. Um, that's the impression I get. Now, different governments might have different ways of communicating things. Me being American will communicate things differently than, say, Michael Phillips, who is British. Um, we might have our different ways of communicating, but if you look at the point, we're basically saying the same thing. Now, the same goes for other people from around the world who are saying they're aware of these things and have been involved in these things. Um, so I would just urge anybody who's new to all of this to step back and look at the bigger picture and not focus on the minute details, because none of us communicate perfectly either. It's not about that. Yeah, I get your humor. I get the same sense of humor, so pretty much. I mean, I might be American, but I'm I'm not just American. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I grew up watching like Monty Python and stuff. Faulty Towers is a huge favorite of mine. Um, Very British sense of humor, actually. I love Spike Milligan too. I think he's hilarious. Oh, but wait. Oh, he's Irish, but wait a minute. Mm, yeah, seriously. People forget how to do that anymore. That's maybe something you've noticed about this time period is that people have no sense of humor. They forget. And it's not really their fault. I mean, the last 20 years of human history, if you had to live through them, were not that great. They're pretty bad, actually, compared to, well, especially in like Western countries. The last 20 years have been were worse than the previous 20, probably overall. So, um, for most people, at least. So people are kind of lost their sense of fun and sense of humor and become too serious and just way too politically correct and humorless. So, but I'm hoping that changes. I have a lot of hope that things will become fun again. And Mm, like my children, for instance, they're young. My oldest is 10, so she doesn't really know like what it was like. And we kind of kept her protected from what's been going on around her for the last 10 years, so she's kind of insulated from it. So that the younger kids are just have a really good sense of fun and humor, and they're really funny and just great. They personally give me a lot of hope for the future, and definitely great. Yeah, what's the insult for this generation? Because I'm gonna start using it. No sense of humor. Like somewhere along the line, people just stopped being able to take jokes. You know, like what happened? Just society lost its sense of humor and just became so just miserable and dour all the time. Oh yeah, the snowflake generation. Yeah, makes sense. Like remember you used to be able to tell jokes and people didn't get all offended all the time about them. No, that's just jokes. Jokes are just jokes. If you can't joke about something, then there's a serious problem. There's an attack on our free speech. And until that's been that until the undermining of our freedom of speech has been eliminated, I will not rest. Because if we don't have that, we have nothing. And that is the truth. Hmm. Well, so hopefully, I hope that you are right, Michael Phillips, and that the United States does become more united and that people get their sense of humor back and their sense of fun. And, just lighten up a bit. Stop taking stupid things so seriously. Well, that's encouraging because a lot of us old guys miss certain things. All right. Um, hmm. This is definitely the longest live chat I've ever done, and I've totally run out of things to say in after 4 hours. But I have a lot of questions, certainly for Michael Phillips, but I probably shouldn't ask them because knowing the answers to certain things could really probably mess certain things up, and putting out certain information on here could definitely mess things up. Um, and we can't take that risk now, can we? Yeah, well, it's not about that. It's about bigger things than the presidency. I mean, it really is, you guys. Hmm. Well, that's good. And I wouldn't ask certain questions in public anyway, because, I know better. Okay, so I'm going to get going. This is Michael Phillips. Now you guys have me saying I'm Michael Phillips. This is Michael Macintosh. Guys, I'm not Michael Phillips, I swear to you. He's in the chat. Look. All right. I'm going to go listen to the Red Sox broadcast. Have a great one. Prove it. Look in the chat.